The so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are not the Israelites or the chosen people of the Most High, all right, that the Bible speaks of, right, then who are we? Okay, again, if the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are not the chosen of the Bible, and we are not Hebrew Israelites, right? Then what are we? What are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans? Who are they as a people? Right? Because if it was up to the nation of Edom, you know, the descendants of Esau, which is today known as the so-called white man or the original red man, or there's only one red man. If we're up to him, right? Well, he already called us he already called us what he thinks we are, which is what? 3/5 of a man. Okay, which is the very point that I want to bring out, which is the clearest thing that I want to bring out to the scriptures, that the whole 3/5 of a man thing was written in the American Constitution that was declared by the whole world. All right, and that's the very reason that, you know, the so-called blacks, along with the Native Americans, went into slavery, starting with the so-called blacks. Really Native Americans, but really we're talking about the so-called blacks in this, because that was the majority of slavery, the oppression that was put upon our people on this land, America. And it was in America, no other country, man, that we were not even considered a human being. 3/5 of a man, right? And my point is, there's a scripture in the Bible that says the Most High was going to happen to our people. And that's Hosea 1 and 10, a specific scripture pointing out the American Constitution, man. So this is not something hard to figure out for you blind idiots out there, all right? That, again, that Hosea 1 and 10 goes into saying that in the very land that we were called not a people, and the Constitution, the 3/5 of a man statute and law was written into the whole world to see and to govern a country, right? In that very land that these people weren't called the people, in that very land we were called the people of the Lord. Why? Because the nation of Israel, waking up to who they are, going back to another prophecy, right? Something happening before it actually happens, and people saying it before it actually happens, goes back to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, when it tells you that what? The prophecy of our people, the Lord's people, they were going to wake back up, right? And get their sinews upon them, get the muscles upon them. I'm not going to go to Ezekiel 37, but it goes into that we were going to wake back up to who we are, right? And where did that happen? Did it happen in China? Did it happen in Australia? No, it happened in America, man. Starting with Abba Bivens. Yahweh Shemai Shai put the spirit on Abba Bivens starting in 1969, simultaneously the downfall of America, which is another subject, right? And the rise of Israel, that Israel was going to get that breath back in him again. We're going to get that knowledge. Isaiah 33 verse 6, or the breath of life, which starts with the name of the Most High through his son Yahweh Shai. And that we're going to be brought back to the true understanding of knowledge of who we were. And that's prophecy. And where did that happen? That happened in good old America, man. So this whole BS about, you know, us not being the true people of the Lord, and, you know, Apostle Ramlab, Apostle Tahar, you know, all the, you know, many brothers are making shows about going about the gaslighting and all this lies being pushed forth by the so-called white man trying to disprove who we are, when it's very clear, when Hosea 1 and 10 makes it very clear. And not only Hosea 1 and 10, which is the prophecies, but the American Constitution proves, right, the 3/5 of man proves that we were considered the people, man. So that's what I want to go into. So I got, you know, a few scriptures I want to share that I'm going to close off the show with, right? I want to get into that whole black thing, just make one quick point about that at the end of the show. And I want to share one last scripture about proving that the so-called white man is the damn devil that the Bible speaks of things like this, gaslighting and lying about who we are, all right? And it's very obvious that we are the children of Yahweh Shemai Shai through what we've been through, all right? But first, I want to read an article, okay? And then I want to go over the Constitution real quick, to go over the 3/5 of a man. So with that, I would like to say, Kal Halal, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Ruach Wadash. Tawada Yahweh for giving us Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GMS who had the 100% spirit of Yahweh by Shemai Shai in them. Double honors to the Connecticut elders of GMS, our big brothers. Greetings and salutations to the brothers in this country and all over the world who are prophesying in the true name of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, the Son Yahushai, which is the King of the universe, which is none other than the power of the nation of Israel, which consists of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, and anybody who are descendants from those people on their father's side. Shalom to those who are scattered abroad. Shalom to the Akim and the Akwith. Okay, let's get right into it. Okay, so again, so I just explained it right in the intro. So I'm going to go right to this article, okay? Now, I didn't go to compromise Google because we already know what Google's about. You know, you can't find it. It's so censored, you can't really find nothing on there. So I went to DuckDuckGo, right? And I typed in 3/5 of a man, original constitution, right? So now when you go look it up, you know, you're going to see, of course, in the age of disinformation, you know, by the so-called white men in Nation of Edom, you know, they try to kind of articulately, you know, with his, you know, with his new speaking in certain words, try to downplay the 3/5 of a man, the decree that was in the Constitution. So they call it the 3/5 of man compromise, to say that basically it was a deal. So I'm going to read off a couple of not really straightforward explanations of it, and then I'm going to read an article of what that really meant. Okay, because it doesn't technically say the so-called black man 3/5 of a man, but we all know through like Esau does through his reading between the lines that it's directed towards a certain people, because there were no other slaves at the time, so it would have to be talking about us. All right, that's how the devil works. How he does his, you know, little loop, and look, like today in your certain amendments, they do it today with certain laws that they write. Right, so let's get right to it. Let me pick up some fabricated, sugar-coated definitions or explanations of the 3/5 of a man in the Constitution. Then I'm going to get the real breakdown of what a man wrote and read that. And then we're going to go to the scriptures. So this one here, right, this is from blackpastwhatever.org. And it says, I'm going to click it real quick. Just going to read a little bit off the screen. Right, just one paragraph. It says, often misinterpreted to mean that African Americans as individuals are considered 3/5 of a person, or they that are 3/5 of a citizen of the U.S. The 3/5 clause, Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution of 1787, in fact declared that for purposes for representation in Congress, enslaved blacks in state would be counted as 3/5 of a number of white inhabitants of that state. So right off the bat, you see how they try to kind of smooth it over and sugarcoat it to say that often misrepresented. No, we already know what you've really meant about that, okay? So that what they're trying to say is that, which it might have some truth, but overall, we know the underlining of that, okay? That we weren't considered a human beings. That's the very fact they had the excuse in their delusional mind that they can put us into slavery. And again, this article tries to mislead you off that. It says often misinterpreted. And most articles you look on this subject is going to phrase it that way. And again, now they say it was because in a particular state or in a nation that it went basically to basically, you know, dealing with voting rights and representation as far as the council and the Senate, as far as counting people's votes and representing that the constituents of that state. It says the U.S. Constitution of 1787, in fact, declared that for purposes of representation in Congress, that's what it says, enslaved blacks in state would be counted as 3/5 of a number of white inhabitants of that state. So they're saying that basically that it went from state to state as representing Congress, because the people, the Southerners, the slave owners of the South, you know, they had many slaves that basically that can help them with to represent them in Congress, and they have more power in voting. So to break down their power, they came up with this amendment, so to speak. So they're basically saying that, like, for every 5 white men, 5 Edomites or 5 white people, 3 black men would equal that. So something to that degree. So when they came to being represented in Congress, a so-called black man or the population, it would take they try to manipulate it that way to say that uh, um, 3 blacks will equal 5 whites, if I'm explaining correctly. So it says, in fact, declared that the purpose of representation in Congress, enslaved blacks in the state would be counted as 3/5 of a number of white inhabitants of that state. So even for a state, 3/5 of the population of so-called blacks in that state would be counted. All right. It says the 3/5 clause was part of a series of a compromise enacted by the Constitutional Convention of 1787. It says the most notable others clauses prohibited slavery in the Southwest Territories and ended U.S. partition in the international slave trade in 1807. I don't need to really need more. Read that first paragraph, kind of explained it. I'm going to read 2 other ones that kind of give you a sugar coating of what that is. Okay, let's read another one. Wikipedia, we already know about them. It says the 3/5 compromise. They're trying to say compromise is like a deal. So this is a deal between the state and the government. It said the 3/5 compromise was an agreement reached during 1787 United States, right, Constitutional Convention over the counting of slaves and in determining a state's total population. That's a better definition of that. Again, it says the 3/5 compromise was an agreement reached during the 1787 United States Constitutional Convention over the counting of slaves and determining a state's population. This count would determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives and how much each state would pay in taxes. The compromise counted 3/5 of each state's slave population towards the state. So this also this all deal with which these certain slave masters or people or governors or noblemen would represent the House of Representatives, but also dealt with as much each state would pay in taxes, because it would deal with tax breaks and whatever have you, and citizens in that aspect. All right. It says also, that's another quick one. Let me read another one. It says Britannica. It says the 3/5 compromise. It says the 3/5 compromise or deal, compromise agreement between delegates from the northern and southern states. This is a good one. Yeah, this is a better definition. Northern and southern states at the United States Constitutional Convention in 1787, that 3/5 of the slave population would be counted for determining direct taxation and representation in the House of Representatives. Again, that 3/5 of the slave population would be in each state would be counted for determining taxation and representation in the House of Representatives. Many of the founding fathers acknowledged that slavery violated the ideal liberty that And it may have dealt with that, but for most part, we already know what that entailed. Still, you're saying that we're considered not a people. Now, here's what I want to read. I got a slave here, which is a truer, more honest account of what they're really trying to say between the lines, like they do today in your penal laws and your legislative laws, whatever have you, right? It's always a deeper meaning. Now, this is a Hastings Constitutional Law Quarterly. It says this is in 1988. I don't know if it was. I guess it was written in 1988. It says, but I don't know if it was rewritten from something in 1787. But we're just gonna read it. I may put this article on the description box. The site is a repository. Hastings Education. Again, I'll put it in the description box. Now the title says Black Men, Red Men. We all know who the red men is, and there's no thing as black. That's my last point I want to make. Black Men, Red Men, and the Constitution of 1787, a bicentennial apology from the Middle Templar. So this is an actual letter of an apology for what happened in 1787. Basically, a man writing, it says Louis F. Claiborne, saying that it was wrong and that, overall, that, we were considered human beings. Now, it might have been 1988 too. But anyway, let's read. So, again, it's called Black Men, Red Men, and the Constitution of 1787, the Bicentennial Apology from the Middle Templar by Louis F. Claiborne. in the introduction, it says, amid all excitement surrounding the bicentennial of the United States Constitution, it is not inappropriate to remember two of the framers' most serious oversights: the exclusions of the Black and Native American populations from the body of politics, right? Meaning it did go into taxation and voting. We weren't considered to vote. We weren't none of that, right? It said the two races then accounted for more than 1/4 of the total population existing 200 years ago. Now I'm just going to go to page 270, and I'm going to read to like page 271. The first paragraph is 272. It's real quick. And it kind of explains the truth, what it's really about, you know? So I'm just going to read. It says again, the framers, which are the people who made the Constitution. And real quick, the term Constitution means, just want to get it real quick, the definition. Okay, the definition of Constitution, which we're about to read, is what? A body of fundamental principles or established proceedings according to which a state or other organizations is acknowledging to be governed. Okay? So basically, again, principles and rules, right? Proceeding according over the states, and that's how they're organized by these constitutions. And it says it is acknowledged to be governed. So it's basically a set of rules that rule over states and countries that control your laws. Okay, the Constitution. And just in the one more point before I read the article or little literature, right? It says, let me see. What is the meaning of a constitution? It says legal definition of constitution: the basic principles and laws of a nation, all right, or social group that determine the powers and duties of the government and guarantee certain rights to the people in it. You see? So that's really straight to the point there, that at the end of the day, the Constitution, the American Constitution, clearly says that we weren't even human beings, man. And that's Hosea 1:10. The Lord prophesied that that was going to happen to our people. All right. If not, where? Who is he? Right? Who is that talking about? That's talking about the American Constitution, man. Is Hosea 1:10. Right? Because the Constitution means, again, basic principles and laws that govern a nation and a social group, right? And duties in the government, and guarantees certain rights to the people. And we were considered having no rights, right? Because we weren't considered human beings, man. Okay, so let's go right to the article. Now, the page 270, it says, the framers who created Constitution promulgated these exclusions behind the backs of the Blacks and the Native Americans, who are the nation of Israel. It says, whom they did not invite to the Philadelphia Convention, nor were there any women, which may have affected the outcome of the issues discussed below. But there were lots of lawyers. Out of the 55 delegates who attended, almost 2/3 had been trained in the law. Even if they were not all practicing lawyers, and 5 of these had been called to the bar by the Honorable Society of the Middle Temple in London. When I say Blacks and Native Americans were excluded from the body of politics, I do not mean merely that they were denied the franchise. At that time, the right to vote was universally restricted to propertied adult males. I'm not saying it right, it's a lot, right? And it was left to the states to regulate, right? So it was up to the states who had the right to vote or not. And we all know that so-called Blacks and Native Americans, they didn't have no rights. Rather, the Constitution of 1787 excluded Black and red people in much more fundamental sense. Now, we already know who the red man is. You see how this devil is? They were not deemed citizens of the United States. So obviously it wasn't, we weren't considered people. We were considered, now citizens, the word citizens, the word citizen refers to people. We weren't considered people. They had no civil rights except as conceded to them by the states, and thus enjoyed no constitutional protection from ill treatment at the hands of federal or state authorities. Let me read that again. Meaning, no matter what they did to us, we had no protection, like police, whatever. We had no rights. They had no civil rights except as conceded to them by the states. It was up to the states, and the states didn't have to protect them. and thus enjoy no constitutional protection. So in the Constitution, we weren't protected. Why? Because we weren't considered a people. It says from ill treatment at the hands of federal or state authorities. The drafters of the Constitution, people who wrote them, affirmed the status as blacks as chattel and the Native Americans as aliens in their own land. Right? Now, I really want to look up chattel, but I don't want to really, let's look up chattel. Let's look up chattel. Because they said that we were considered chattel. So that's let me look that up. All right. Chattel definition. See what that says. Oh, a personal possession. That's what it means. So yeah, chattel, but basically a personal possession. And we were considered possessions. We were considered human beings, man. I mean, that's easy to understand. That's renowned, right? Okay, so again, blacks were considered personal property or personal possessions, and Native Americans as aliens or foreigners in their own land. All right, they were here for 1,000, 1,500 years before you damn rats came over here. Talk about you Edomites. These were serious scars on the fundamental charter of the new nation, which loudly proclaimed. See, loudly proclaimed in the Constitution. Declare means to say out loud and proclaim it and write it into law, right? That liberty and equality of man. Again, there were serious scars on the fundamental charter of the new nation, which loudly proclaimed the liberty and equality of man. Yeah, they allowed it, they allowed it to proclaim that everybody's equal. We're all equal, right? They said that in the Constitution. But it said most students of American history have apologized for the framers by arguing that they were prisoners of their time, meaning that they try to make excuses for them. Yeah, well, it wasn't the slave master's fault. They're prisoners of that generation. They just had to go with the flow. They had to, they didn't really mean that, whatever, right? They try to apologize for them. No, they knew what the fuck they were doing, man. They knew they knew they were doing slavery. They were prisoners of the time. That was all orchestrated for us to put us down. On the slave trade, Professor began. Okay. Now the one more page. It says, okay, it might have been better for the United States if it had been taken up and disposed of in 1787 once and for all, but it was not possible, right? Meaning they should have got rid of it a year later. Others might conclude, pointing to the invasion of the post-Civil War amendments in the case of blacks and the 100 broken treaties in the case of Indians, that subsequent history would have been no different, meaning that after the Civil War, at least, if you didn't do it in 1787, after the Civil War, right, which was so-called Emancipation Proclamation, right, whatever you say that, maybe it should have been changed there, but it wasn't changed. It still wasn't changed, right? It says that the subsequent history would have been no different if the Constitution had treated blacks and Native Americans more generously. So even if he's saying, even if they did write, okay, so-called blacks could vote, they have rights, we would have never been treated the same. Because what's the proof now? 2021. Here it is, we have so-called rights, we can vote, we can do all that, but are we equal? No, you got some called redlining where the banks, that's how ghettos created, because certain cities, starting in the 1920s, they weren't crediting, or banks weren't loaning cities or towns, housing developments, whatever have you, for construction to build, because wherever Jake was. That's how the ghettos created, because wherever we were, they weren't trying to build up our cities or our towns, man. That's how the ghettos were created. And still to this day. Right? So there's no equality, even though they say that we can go into mixed school systems, no segregation and all that. We have rights. We have no rights, right? You see right now with the people who have the Beetlejuice and the people who don't have the Beetlejuice, right? Now they're giving different rights to people who don't have a certain jab, right? So this place is it's a lie. To continue, it reads, I am not convinced on either point. I think the founding fathers could have used their skill to avoid, or at least substantially attenuate, too cruel and degrading aspects of our history, right? Law cannot overcome all the social pressures and prejudices prejudices, excuse me, prejudices, but if stated with unequivocal clarity, can withstand a great many, especially in a country where the federal courts are usually willing to take an unpopular causes. I will consider whether it is realistic to suppose that framers might have dealt with blacks and Native Americans in a significantly different way. Meaning that he doesn't think it was realistic that even if they did write it again in law, that we're not going to be treated differently. Again, here it is in present day 2021. That's the proof. Because we're written in the law, we have certain rights, but we're not treated the same still. Right? First hired, first fired, last hired. Right? We fill 90% of the jail cells. You know the deal. I distinguish between the two cases. The framers' treatment of the blacks and the Indians demonstrated the common prejudices of the time against non-white people, and the common idea that black and red men were were children of nature or savages. Okay, that's what they call this. Children of nature of savages, like people of the wild, of the woods. That's what they consider us, man. That's what these people think we are. A bunch of monkeys swinging on trees. Savages. That's what they call. What's what Indian means? Savages, man. So we can't be nothing in history. He can't be nothing divine. We're just the bottom. That's the way it's going to be. But guess what? Again, that Hosea 1 and 10 explains that. The Most High told us that was going to happen to us. Right? But beyond excluding the two races from the body of politic, the Constitution deals very differently with blacks and Indians. The operative causes are not the same. Furthermore, the resulting treatment of each race was quite distinct. I shall accordingly look separately at the two racial situations. One more paragraph. It said the Constitution also does not expressly discriminate against blacks who are not slaves, right? So you won't see black people are treated as a man. You won't see that there, right? The Constitution also does not expressly discriminate against blacks who are not slaves, even ones who are not slaves, right? However, this did not deter Chief Justice Taney, writing for the majority some 70 years later in the infamous Dred Scott case. He found that free blacks, just like slaves, were not intended by the framers to be included as a portion of the people. You see? Again, a man called Dred Scott, in Dred Scott case, the infamous Dred Scott case, he said he found that free blacks, just like slaves, were not intended by the people who wrote the Constitution to be included as a people. Now, in the scripture, again, the very prophecy talks about us not being a people, man. Hosea 1 and 10. You see? Constitute members of sovereignty. We weren't considered free. Or citizens of the United States. We weren't considered even citizens. Right? But were regarded as far inferior, more worse than that they had no rights, which the white man was bound to respect. Right? We had no rights, man. Regardless of the correctness of the Justice Taney assertions, it is obvious that the status of free blacks, then numbered only some 60,000, was substantial, affected, and overshadowed. Okay. So look at this, one more. The appointment clause. It says the Constitution first defines black slaves as the beginning of the document. They are delicately referred to as other persons. You see? Other man, free persons, bound to service for a term of years. Indian not taxed. Slaves were counted to the extent of 3/5 of a person in computing the number of representatives each state could send to Congress in the appropriation of direct taxes. It could be asked to contribute to the national government. Okay, so basically, in short, that it dealt with, again, we can read it one more time, right? We were considered other persons bound to service for slavery. And Indians, we weren't taxed. Slaves were counted to the extent of 3/5 of a person in computing the number of representatives each state could send. So we were kind of less when majority voting or considered in the body of representatives. and as far as Congress is concerned. So that was the point there. I read that, I put in the description, but overall, that's the proof that we weren't considered people, man. Now I'm going to go to Hosea, okay? Hosea real quick, and prove it through the scriptures. And I'm going to start from verse 1. It reads, Hosea, the points 1 and 10. It says, the word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, which is Savior, by the way, which means Hosea or deliverer, right? The son of Beri in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. It says the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, and the Lord said unto Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms. For the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. And that's talking about the nation of Israel. How did we create great whoredom? Why? Because we fell back from the laws that we were married to. We were married to Yahweh Shemai Shai, right? When you are married, that means we're one union. We're married to the law, married to the Most High and the Lord by the laws, and He made a covenant with us. But we fell back. How do we cheat on the Lord? We mess with other philosophies, right? We cheated on Him by messing with other understandings that weren't ours. We were married onto those. We were married onto the Lord's statutes, commandments, not idol, idolatry, and heathen nations, right? So that's why the Most High told Hosea to go get a whore, because why? Because that's what initially we did. It's like a man marrying a goddamn prostitute who's been hoeing for 20 years, and the Lord tells you to have a kid with her. I mean, that's an abomination. No man wants that. A man wants a pure woman, and you can't find that in these days, right? So he went. It says, so he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And that was part of the curses, right? That he was going to do this. He was going to, which Jezreel means is what? It means Yarzarath, which means he is a seed of the Most High, all right? He is the seed of Yahweh Shemai Shai, meaning if we're the seed of the Lord, that means the Lord birthed us, right? He's the one who birthed us, who created us, right? That's the natural order. He created us to be His people. He birthed us, right? But He said, my people, the seed of the Most High, I'm going to make him depart from me, right? He said, Jezreel upon the house of Jehu will I cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass that at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel, right? He was going to break our power. He's going to break the bow of Jezreel, the seed of the Most High, which is Yashar, the people of the Lord. You so-called blacks, Latino, Native Americans, He was going to break us. He was going to take us away, right? And it says, verse 6, and she conceived again and bare a daughter, and the Most High said unto him, call her name Lo Rahama, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Now, that's proof. I got proof of that, Jeremiah 17, verse 4. Now, Lo Rahama, the second child that Hosea had with this whore, right, means having no mercy. So not only was the Lord going to do, which is the term is called omen or name prediction, which the Lord always names every children of Israel, starting with Yahweh Shai. Even His name is a name prediction, right? You take on the characteristics of your name, starting with the Most High, Yahweh, which means He to be, or I am. When you say He to be, He is everything, or I am, He is everything. He's omnipotent, omnipresent, right? He's everything. Yahweh Shai, His son, right, is a name prediction. The Lord, the first begotten Spirit, His name is Yahweh Shai, which means He is the deliverer. He, the deliverer, which what? He delivered the whole nation of Israel from their sins, right, from these bodies, to be adopted back to the Heavenly Father and to inhabit the kingdom of heaven with our Lord, right? And He delivered us, He delivered us from our sins. He delivered us from the lost, to have not faith in the lost to deliver us, because it's impossible, but to have faith in the Lord, to believe in Him that He's going to deliver us in the last days, which we're in the last days now, right? right? But it says, so that's the example of a name prediction, right? Now again, lo ra'amah, for I will have no more mercy. So the seed of Israel were going to be taken away. And then it says, the Lord says, call the second child, lo ra'amah, I will have no mercy. He had no mercy on us, man. But I will utterly take them away, right? I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Precept to that. Yes, the Lord took us away. You don't know who you are no more. The scriptures say what? Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Jeremiah 17 verse 4 reads, this is how he took us away. And thou, even thyself, should discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. What's that land? That land here is here in America. When we were called over here through slavery, man, through the transatlantic slave trade, and we're beaten, and I don't got to go through what we went through. Gator bait, being castrated, being hunted down, being baked and being put in metal caskets like they show in Django in 120-degree weather, being buck braked, meaning that there were slave masters having sex with the men in front of their wives to degrade them as a man and to break our confidence as a being, right? Who was that done to? That was done to the nation of Israel, right? Again, even thyself even shall discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, right? And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. And I went through all those details to show that all buck breaking and gator bait and all the stuff we went through in slavery, being hung and castrated, decapitated, right? That's inside of an enemy, not your friend, man. Not your friend. You know, and that's why we need salvation, because you niggas forgot that, man. You don't know who your enemy is. It's like going into your home after work and you see your wife and your child murdered, but you see the murderer there and you offer him dinner and go out and have a drink with him. That's how you niggas are today. You don't even know who your fucking enemy is, and he makes it obvious every motherfucking second of the day. Especially right? I mean, anyway. I don't want to go too long. So it says, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled the fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. And we didn't know this land. We were brought here. The Indians, our brothers were here first, right? But at the end of the day, we were here serving slavery in a land that we did not know, right? And that was here in America, man. That's renowned, all right? So to continue back in Hosea, it says, verse 7, but I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their power, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Right? So the Lord's going to save us, but he's not going to save us by these ways. He's going to save us by Yahushua, by understanding, by coming back to him, by the mind. All right? By the spirit, okay, of understanding. Okay, either you understand or you don't. Okay, it says now when she had weaned, which is the Holy Spirit, it says now when she had weaned lo rahamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, I will not be your power. You see, now there's three children. The first one was Jezreel, which is the seed of Israel, the seed of the Most High. You so-called blacks unto the Native Americans, you are the seed of the Most High, and we were separated because we fell back from the Most High. He took us away, right? Then the second daughter was called Lo Ra'amah, which means having no mercy. Slavery is having no mercy. Here in America now, to where we are as the degenerates, as we are today, the present day, that's having no mercy, all right? Slavery has no mercy. The conquistadors wiping out the Native Americans, that was no mercy. You had the women having their, it was documented, having their pregnant women have their stomachs split open, man. You had documented that the men and women were strapped to horses, each limb, right, and were split open by horses, going either direction. That's no mercy. All right, now the third child, it said, then said the Most High, call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your power, right? So right there, the Lord says you're not, that child literally was called Lo ami, not my people. Right? That was a prophecy. And the Lord said, I will not be your power. Let me go to Jeremiah 11:4 real quick. Jeremiah 11:4, right? It says, Jeremiah 11:4, it says, verse 1 also, it says, the word came to Jeremiah from the Lord saying, hear the words of this covenant and speak unto the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and say thou unto them, thus saith the Lord power of Israel, cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant. Verse 4, the point, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt from the iron furnace, saying, obey my voice and do them according to all which I command you. So shall ye be my people. So shall ye be my people. So shall ye be my people, and I will be your power. Okay? That I may perform the oath, which is the promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I may perform the oath which I have sworn unto your fathers, to give them the land flowing with milk and honey, the land of Israel, right? And honey, as it is this day. Then answered I and said, so be it, Lord. But the point was 4, meaning that if we obey him, so shall ye be my people, and I will be your power. But we don't obey the Lord, so he didn't make us his people no more, and he's not our power no more, right? Now, verse 10, the point of the show. Hosea 1:10, the point of the show, and a direct prophecy to the fucking Constitution that was written in 1786 about our people, saying that literally it said right here. Let me find it again. What did it say? It said the frame is to include it as a portion of the people. It says Constitution says but were regarded as sought. Excuse me, Slock. I'm trying to find it. Well, I should have got highlight tab. Well, I can't find it. I don't want to waste too much time. But I read it earlier. It said we weren't considered people, right? In the Constitution. Or other persons, right? On other persons. Bother me, I can't find it. Now it says, Hosea 1:10, yet the number of the children of Israel, right, shall be as the sand of the sea, which goes into disperse as another show, right? Going to diaspora, we were scattered all over the world, right? Because if we're just so-called blacks and Latino Native Americans, that's only a certain region of the world, right? But that wouldn't make up the majority of the world. So that means we would have to be scattered and born into and reincarnated into other nations. That's how we are scattered, right? You got Conor McGregor, Hebrew Israelite, Al Pacino, Hulk Hogan, whatever, Paul Walker from Fast and the Furious, all right? Jason Williams, who played basketball. These are all Hebrew Israelites, man. Bruce Lee, right? We were scattered all over the world. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel should be, Caleb Plant, who just was fighting, right? As the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, it should come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, right? Again, that in the place where it was said unto them, that ye are not my people, where was the place that we were considered not a people? And it was said unto us. It was written and declared in the Constitution in 1787, or whatever the year it was, that we were not even human beings. We were considered other people. We were considered property. We were considered chattel, whatever that word was. Right? That happened in America, man, and it was publicized. Right? It says, and it shall come to pass that in the place where we were said unto them, ye are not my people, there should be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. So for that right there, saying that what? The very place that's ushering out that we're saying that we are the people of the Lord, that we are the nation of Israel, we are the chosen, Isaiah 44:1, that ain't happening in China. That ain't happening in Russia. That ain't happening in Brazil. That's happening right here in America, starting with Abba Bivens, by way of prophecy, by the way, right? In 1969, and on down, Abba Bivens, King Marshall, High Priest Shaiquab, Eldar Riyah, right? And also going down to our present current order, the leaders of the nation of Israel on planet Earth, starting with Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Ramlab, Apostle Rakar, right? Apostle Tahar, right? That here it is said that we are the chosen here in America, here in the U.S. Babylon the Great. Okay, no other place. So if we're saying it here that we are the people of the Lord, we would look dumb if we were saying, yo, we are the people of the Lord, we're the children of Israel, but in that land where we're at, it was never said that we weren't never a people, right? That would look real dumb. But see, it was said that we weren't considered a people here. How many times we have to say that? And in this very place that we weren't considered people, now they're saying the truth. The Lord has brought the truth through the apostles in this country, right? Saying that we are the people. Verse 11. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together. Are we not being gathered together? The whole stick, I believe in Isaiah 11th chapter, right? The house of Ephraim and the house of Judah were being joined on together, right? Which is all you so-called blacks and Latino Americans, we're all being brought together, right? On this sign here, we're being brought together. It's kind of big, but okay. We're being brought together. It said here in this land, we're all one people, right? There shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together in Babylon and appoint themselves not in Babylon, appoint themselves one head, and they shall call up out of the land. And they shall come up out of the land. For great should be the day of Jezreel. You see? Great should be the day of the seed of the Lord. Great should be the day of the seed of the power of Yahweh Shai. When the Lord comes back and saves us and put us back in our own land, in the land of Israel, the capital of the world and the universe, and the whole place will be a garden of Eden, and we're going to be joint heirs with our Lord and Savior. All right? And we're going to be delivered out of Babylon the Great in America, man. Right? So that was the point there, okay, to prove that we are very well the children of the Lord. And my proof to that is, again, the Constitution, man. It points clearly that we weren't considered a people. And in this land, I repeated it 10 times, so I got to say it again, that the Lord said that we are the people of the Lord by way of prophecy. Okay, now I wanted to get a point on, too, that, they got this thing of saying the black Hebrew Israelites. Let me see if I can bring this back. Right? That's BS, man. We already know what black means. Black means void of light, ignorant, no knowledge. Okay? And that's reverse psychology, man. And you dummies have eaten that word up, which, remember, I went into omen and name prediction or vibrations, colors, names have vibrations. Okay? You take on the characteristics of your name, and you people calling yourself black, that's a term that they use to say, as a joke or mocking, and say we have no knowledge or no light. Now, my point I want to say is, let me bring this back so we can see the sign. Okay, that if you look at the sign, right, we're not the black Hebrew Israelites, right? We are Hebrew Israelites. We're the nation of Israel, okay? And if you look at the sign, the majority of our people are not even so-called black, man. Only the 3 tribes out of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel are considered so-called black. So why do they keep pushing that? Why? Because they're the devils and liars. All right. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Which are what? The Negroes, Judah, Benjamin, West Indians, Islands, and Levi, the Haitians, right? Those are the darkest tribes of the nation of Israel. We all have color and dark and are lost the color of our pigment. But this is the tribe, the house of Judah, looks just like Yahweh Shai. And we've been tainted a little bit because we mix seed with ham. But we look like Yahweh Shai. And now the rest of the tribes, the 75% of the tribe, all right, if I'm saying it correctly, 75% of the nation of Israel are Latinos and Native Americans, are the indigenous people of the Americas. Arab Indians, Taino Indians, the Mayans, the Incas, the Gad and Reuben. These people all make up this here, okay? That was my point on the black thing. Proves to you these people are freaking liars, man. Okay, man, it's a 50-minute show. All right, now, let me get one last point. I just want to prove the point that at the end of the day, this man's a damn liar, man. So I'm going to get one quick one. I'm just going to read it real quick. Okay. Proving that this man's a damn liar and that the last days he's going to be revealed. He's desperate. He's doing gaslighting. He's trying all he can to try to prove that we're not. But who the hell are we then, huh? Because up to you, we cannot even consider human beings. Anyway, this is Thessalonians, 2nd chapter, right? 2 verse 8, real quick. It says, 2 verse 6. Excuse me, verse 7, it says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. I'm going to get to the point. Verse 8, it says, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. Who is the wicked? The nation of Edom, the third part of man. You got the sons of God, which are us, right? The seed Jezreel, the seed of the Most High, or Yahshua Allah, the prince of the power. That's us. Salak. After then shall the wicked be revealed, right? And then you got the sons of the wicked, the sons of men, which are the other nations, and then you got the sons of the wicked, which is the third part of man, which is talk about the so-called white man. The devil, the wicked, it says, he's going to be revealed in the last days, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. How is he being consumed with the spirit of his mouth? Through the prophets. We're the one going out there exposing this devil, man. Like this show and all the other shows that the brothers are making in the spirit of the Lord, right? Because the Lord put the understanding on these men on earth, right, to break down what's going on in the last days, man. Right? Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So he's already being destroyed. He's already being exposed by the words of the prophets, all right? Bringing out the truth, like shows like this, and shows like Apostle Ramla with gaslighting, shows like Apostle, all the brothers doing shows. Apostle R, all the Dallas camp, all the brothers doing shows on this, proving in all over the world. All topics proving that this man's the devil. He's being revealed for what he is, man. He's the devil, and he's a liar. A devil means a lie and a slander. It says, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. The Lord's he's gonna be brighter than the sun is prophesied when the Lord's gonna come back. That's how much glory he's gonna have. It says, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan, right? Satan means adverse. It's not satanic if it's not against adverse or against truth. In other words, it's not satanic. And ultimate truth starts with the Most High and the Lord. All right. So it says, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. Right. So that article there and stuff like that try to say that we are not the people of the Lord, and who, Deuteronomy 28:68 is now talking about us. It's talking about we were led there. We wanted to be killed and all that kind of stuff. That's being pushed by the devil. That, hey, you got another gaslighting to say that which Kanye West dumbass pushed forth, his back and forth as saying that, the slaves come over here for a job opportunity, man. That the slaves come here to work. We came here to work. That's another goddamn lie, man. Right? That's something that's satanic. That's in other stuff, right? Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. He has power to do this through his witchcraft, through his Yirmitzim, which is the TV, through his propaganda, through his lies, through his school system, through his dogma, through his brainwashing, through his technology. Also, he brainwashes people. I'm not going to get into that, right? On a higher levels, they're able to do this because they have the power to do that, right? With all power and signs. Right? This world is ruled by symbols, not laws. Confucius said that. This world is run by not words or governors, but by symbols and signs. And you got a taste of that of symbol and signs and satanic spirits off of that Travis Scott show, man. Everybody's waking up off that. It says signs and lying wonders. This man's lies are wonderful, man. All right, like going to the moon. That's a supreme lie. The Lord looking like a rock star, and the Lord looking like he came out of Kiss band. That and being so-called white, that's a lie. The Egyptians, when you see an old movie about the Egyptians, is always white people. They're every nation, they're everybody in history, right? Lying wonders, man, and so on and so forth, right? And lying what it says. Okay, now that was the point. So with that, very long show. Lord willing, the show is edifying, and like I said, Hosea 1:10 proves it's directly, you can relate that to Constitution, man, because Constitution said we were not even a real people, we were permanent slaves, and we were another person. We were human beings, we were savages, and we were offsprings of nature, like living in the forest or something like that. and we were permanent slaves. And but that was done here, and in this very land, we were called the people of the Lord. And starting with the prophets, bringing it out, Abba Bivens, and all the way down to today with Apostle Tahar and the rest of the three. Okay, all right. So, which are, excuse me, out of respect, Abba Bivens, King Marshall, High Priest Saquab, El Ariar, down to Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Rakar, Apostle Ramlov, man. The order. With that, Kal Halal, Yahweh Shemir Shai, Bahashim Shalom.